back again for the second part. Also, if you hear any babbling, that's going to be my son. So, just letting you know in advance. Okay, I got into a little bit in the last vid about how there really are no ninja walking the earth anymore. And I stand by that. Now we're going to try to go a little bit more into some of the things that we've made up about ninjas that just aren't true. Let's start with the sword. Many times when you think of the ninja sword, the first thing that comes to mind is that straight katana blade. Now this isn't a ninja sword per se, but it's kind of, the shape should be a bit stereotypical. Unlike a Japanese katana, or nihonto, however you want to call it, it has that nice gentle curve. They tend to show ninja swords, you know, straight blades like these. Except, of course, there'd be a handguard, a square-shaped tsuba or handguard on here, and it's always shaped, you know, it's pretty much straight, except, and you got the end which is similar to a katana right there. Now, that's the stereotypical ninja sword. That blade has not been used in Japan. There is no such thing as a ninja sword, okay? Ninjas, if they had to use swords, pretty much use whatever they can get their hands on, and it usually was wakizashi or katana. That's it. There is no ninja sword. The whole straight blade thing was made up. I don't know exactly who was the one who first came up with that stupid image, but that particular sword has not been used historically in Japan. Now, if you want to argue about the very first swords used in Japan, which were known as ken, which were similar to the Chinese yan, you can sort of say that, but they were more similar, like I said, they were similar to the Chinese yan. They were, you know, they were straight, but they had, you know, pointed ends, and they were double-sided, double-bladed weapons. And then later on, they were influenced by blades from Tang Dynasty China, which, incidentally enough, this is more of a reproduction of a Tang Dynasty Chinese sword than any type of Japanese equivalent. However, this happened before ninjas were so-called running around. By the time they started developing what would be known as ninjutsu in the Iga and Koga provinces, the katana had pretty much been standard. That and the taichi, which is the cavalry sword, the one with the deeper curve. That's made more for horseback riding. The ninja sword is a fabrication. Now, I'm not saying that nowadays there aren't good versions. I mean, Hanwei, for instance, makes what many people consider the definitive fake ninja sword. I mean, it chops through things pretty well, the edge is damn sharp and all that, but yeah, it's just, it's nice to have in your hands. It's a nice fantasy sword to run around with, but that's the whole thing, it's a fantasy. Ninja didn't use things like that. The closest thing to a ninja sword that I'm being seen sold on the market is made by Chenis. This is the blade that supposedly is like the official weapon of the, I think it's the Togaku Ryo, the Bujinkan guys. Again, if I'm using the wrong terms or the wrong names, please correct me. But they've come up with what they considered the ninjas used back then, which was, it basically is a katana, but with a much shorter blade, and it still has a long handle. But it's put into a sheath that's still long. So let's pretend this is a katana. Unfortunately, I don't own any katana, but let's just pretend this was, with, you know, the curve and all that. When they would pull it out, the person, of course, is thinking that you got a normal sized blade. And then when you quickly use it to draw on them, and you pull it out, you'll pull your blade out quicker than they'll pull out theirs, because yours is actually shorter. And they're thinking that you got a longer looking blade, so when you pull yours out, your blade's already out, and then you strike them down. This I can see as being very useful as an assassination tool, you know, for quick killing and whatnot. Was it actually used? I don't know. I'm pretty sure some people might have done the research on that. Anybody who's done the research on that, let me know. But that's the closest thing I've seen to an actual ninja sword. No, it's just a katana with a shorter freaking blade. A katana, if you will. Let's break down some other false ninja weapons. Like I said, swords, pretty much with katana, maybe the shorter one, maybe wakizashi. Yeah, they've used claws for, I think they've used claws for climbing before. And then of course there's the sickle, the kama, that's a farming instrument back then, so yeah, you can walk around with those. Here's one that always cracked me up though, kites. There's this legend that ninjas used to fly around in these huge oversized kites like the very first primitive hang gliders. I'm sorry, that can't possibly be true. Nice legend, and I can see that in a lot of the old Japanese comic books or anime and whatnot, but real life, show me a historical document, you know, a Japanese thing on military where they asked ninjas to fly around in kites to do espionage for them. Ain't happening. Sorry, no. Then there's ninja magic, which is a bit controversial. You might have noticed that it all stems around the kujikiri and the hand nodding that you'll sometimes see them do. I don't know it, so don't expect me to do it. Don't expect me to do it here. But they're based on meditations that Buddhist monks used to do. If you go and like check out Buddhist monks, sometimes when they're doing their chanting, you might notice them doing the same hand motions, and that moved over to as called the kujikiri in Japan. And supposedly these are the very things that would give a ninja like powers over other people, mind powers over other people, or make them stronger, faster, whatever. Again, BS. There's no ninja magic, okay? This ain't Shinobi, the video game Shinobi, where you know the guy's like, and then like flames fly up everywhere or whatever. No, that didn't happen. Were there instances where these guys probably use it to mentally psych themselves up? Possibly. People use meditation like that all the time, or like boxers sometimes when they're in their corner and they're praying or whatever. I think it was a form of that. But as far as giving them any type of mystical powers, again, martial arts do not give you any super otherworldly powers. It's just fighting techniques, alright? Nothing more. And in the case of ninjas, that's something else. Let me just get into that right now. People are attracted to ninjutsu not just because of the coolness factor, but because it's been elevated as the ultimate fighting art. There is no ultimate fighting art, and ninjutsu is no exception. But for some weird reason, ninjas have been elevated as the greatest fighters on earth. And that has not been historically true. Even when the ninja were around, they were not the greatest fighters. In fact, ninjas were not straight out fighters. Again, these are espionage guys, assassins. The better fighters in Japan were the samurai, not the ninja. At least until a certain period of time. I'm pretty sure by the time the Tokugawa era showed up, and Ayuso Tokugawa had actually employed the Iga Ninja as a secret police, maybe you might be able to make an argument towards that. My son's making noise. You might be able to make an argument towards that, saying that, okay, these guys must have had some fighting techniques. But also, there's also some evidence that the samurai had started getting integrated with them too. So they, in a weird sort of way, even though they always try to point ninja and samurai as traditional enemies, this really wasn't the case. And my son's trying to give his points. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, generally them as some super elite fighting force, no. Ninja were designed to collect information, spy on other people, and possibly do quick assassinations, and that's about it. As far as standing toe-to-toe with other people, that really wasn't their forte. More or less, they'd get cut down, at least until, like I said, around the time when the Tokugawa era was beginning to show up. Yeah, I can see somebody arguing that they were able to fight because Ayuso Tokugawa did employ ninja a lot, not just as assassins or information gathering, but he also put them into his army. If you look up the real story of the actual Hattori Hanzo, yeah, there really was a Hattori Hanzo in the past, so he's not this character that you see in the movies or in cartoons or in the Samurai Showdown games. That dude was, you know, a hardcore fighter, and he did fight alongside the army. So again, at that time period, you might be able to make an argument for that, but then that's when they were integrated with the samurai. There might be some other people who know a bit more about this than I do. Feel free to clear that up. But as far as I know, in the beginning, ninja were not this elite fighting force. Okay. Now, as time went on, and they started becoming less and less, and I'm pretty sure this is also when they started getting integrated to the secret police to the point where you had no freaking clue who they were. That's when the mystery would start. You know, kind of like how when we think the CIA today, even though it's modern times, we do kind of put them a little bit on this sort of almost superhero plane of what CIA agents might be doing abroad in other countries. Yeah, we got actual documents of what these people do, but when we look at them in movies or in literature or fiction, whatever, we kind of elevate them to like almost James Bond type status with top-notch hand-to-hand skills and great technology and all that. Well, that's what the Tall Tales did with ninja as well. And they definitely did it about their fighting prowess and about their espionage prowess, but they're just human beings who knew how to use the techniques that were given to them, that they worked on. Alright, this is the second one. I'm going to do one more, the third part, last part, and that's when I'm going to start talking about these so-called modern day ninjas and whether they're legit or not. And I'm sure that's probably going to be the video that if I haven't pissed off people yet, they're definitely going to get pissed off with that one. See you later.